Hey, so thank you guys for coming. I'm really excited about this. I took an Eric Worre training last week, and he actually encouraged us not to get you guys to go take his training, but to teach it. Because when you teach something, it becomes ingrained in a deeper way, right? So if you want to follow him on Instagram, he's definitely got a ton of great stuff and some free trainings here and there. But basically, he was trying to unpack the concept of why we are able to do what we do and how to give ourselves the vision. So I'm going to give today a little bit on sort of the vision. How do we even get a vision? Do we have a vision? Have we thought of a vision? Most people, honestly, are kind of tiptoeing through life, and you get up, you go to work, you come home, you do what you have to do, make the money to pay the bills, to rinse, wash, repeat, right? And then you have kids and your life becomes maybe all about them, but it's still the same thing. Like you're kind of going through this cycle of doing things. And when someone goes like, what are your goals? Like if I were to ask some people, what are your goals and dreams? And what are your people are like, I don't know that I have any. Like I want to make enough money so I can retire one day and then do what? I don't know, sit on a beach. Like it's just not something we think about, right? So one of the things he talked about was he actually talked about this 90 some percent of people, if you look at this as like kind of the stock market type lines we are going up, most people are kind of in survival and they tank into crisis and then they get themselves back up and then they hit survival and they tank back into crisis and they get themselves up and they go. And this is how most people live their life. They live their life between the lines of crisis and survival. Very few people get to success and hardly anyone gets to a life of significance because we are trained in operation mode to get from crisis to survival. So when you think about it, most of what we have to do on a daily basis comes from external forces. Did anyone here not feel like going to work today or yesterday? Why did you go? Because, well, you will get fired, you won't get paid, multiple reasons, right? Do you ever not feel like cleaning your house? And if no one's coming over sometimes, or you sometimes it doesn't get done, but you might be like, I have all day to clean my house, and then you're just kind of whatever, and all of a sudden you get a call that someone's coming or something's happening, or your water tank blows up, and all of a sudden you're in this mad crisis cleaning mode. You get a mouse in your drawer, and all of a sudden the kitchen drawers have been wanting to clean out for weeks. It took me 45 minutes, right? Because there's an external factor pushing on us. So, right from the time our kids are little till going to school, even the way, he gave the example of the way churches are run, everything's an external force, right? You have to do something. And so we've wired ourselves to only do things we have to do. And if you have a crisis of sorts, if you have like, think back to university, maybe some people here did things ahead of time. I was very much like, I worked full time. I was trying to work full time and pay for school, and I was so busy. I never had time. But then when a paper came up, you make time and you figure it out, right? Like, though that's just kind of the way it happens. And so we move from deadline to deadline and we don't ever pause to go kind of what do we want, right? So he trained this on business, but I really want to think of this for health and business. I want to think of it for both because here's the thing. You can do anything if your reasons are big enough. And your reasons are big enough when you understand your vision and you have either created a structure for yourself where you can make it happen. So I want to give you my personal example, and I'm going to give you the example he gave because it was so interesting. But my personal example, I had tried for years and years and years to get into shape. And part of it was I was at the time when I look back, I was probably pre-diabetic. So I just could not. My body could not metabolize food and I was in a really unhealthy place. But to cut sugar out of my life or to do things, I just couldn't do it. So in 2020, when I did the challenge, there was $10,000 on the line. Now I had planned what I was going to do with the money. I had literally spent the money. I was planning on how I would tell people. I was all excited. I was like, well, I'm going to give this much to this thing and this, I'm going to do this for my family. And I had created the vision of what I would do with that outcome so strongly that I knew I would do it. And every time I wanted to cave, and the first challenge was 2 months, and it was like no sugar, no snacking. And there was so many hard moments. But I told myself, if you don't eat this treat, you will get paid $10,000. I didn't treat it like a contest. I told myself it was an absolute. If this happens, this will happen. Now, that was probably in some ways when I didn't win, I was like, oh, well, that kind of sucks, right? It was a little bit lackluster at best. But the point was, I created a situation for myself that took that out of the situation, that took that out of the equation, right? So he had given the example of, he said, when people are trying to do business or health, they often have these stories. Well, I just don't know what to do. I'm trying and I'm not having any success. I just, life is hard and I can't do it. I cave, I this, I that. You have all these reasons. So he's like, just think of the kind of most blah mood you're in. And he goes, you're at my house. And he lives 20 minutes from Las Vegas Boulevard. He's like, let me say, he goes, imagine the worst traffic and imagine I'm going to give you $1 to get from here to there and back in 45 minutes. Would you do it for $1? Well, probably not. Would you do it for $10? And so he kept giving the money. And eventually I was shocked that some people would do it for $100. I'm like, driving in Vegas, I'd probably have to be $1,000 or $2,000. He goes, now let's say I was going to give you $150,000. Would you be able to do it? Would you do it? Well, yes. Now, what if I was going to give you $500,000, but I took away the car and said you can't have a car? Would you sit there and go, well, now I can't do it? He's like, I think I would be knocking on doors, calling a cab, finding a way to get there. Now he's like, now imagine the people in your life that you were expecting to help you get to your goals or the obstacles you have. So imagine your upline or the people in your life that are like, I don't know, tempting you with food or these different people that we're blaming that, well, I can't get here because I don't know what I'm doing. Like, I just don't have the skills. Now imagine you're all in a room and he's like, I will get the first person to get there and back $1 million. He goes, would you stop to ask anyone's permission? Would you literally stop and be like, well, what should I do? You would figure out a way to do it. You just would, because the reason is big enough and your vision is clear enough. Like, you want this money and now you have this opportunity. And so that's kind of an unrealistic thing in some ways, right? It's hard to imagine that. He did give a lot of other examples of, imagine you're trying to reach your next rank and let's say right now Plexus has the, if you sign 3 this month, you go fast start again. And I think all of us are like, the end of the month's on Friday. Like, I can't sign 3 at the end of this month. A lot of us are feeling this, right? Now, imagine that like someone's life was on the line, or imagine that whether it's the money or that someone in your world has cancer. And if you did this, bam, there'd be a cure for cancer. That's unrealistic. But at the same point, if it was something like that you needed desperately, you would make it happen. Like, you just would. And you can fill in the blank with anything. If you sign up 3 people, you'll have an unlimited paycheck for life and you won't ever have to go back to work. Or you will get to go back to work, but wherever you want, or like whatever it might be, right? And so part of the thing is we don't spend time thinking this is realistic. We don't spend the time working towards something. And it's because we don't have this roadmap, right? Like, we just kind of don't know what we're doing. And so your brain makes 300, I want to say 1,000, 30,000. It was a really big number. I lost it in my notes, but your brain is making subconscious decisions every single day. Has anyone ever driven somewhere? And then you get to work and you're like, you specifically don't remember driving to work? Have you ever, like, I did that when I worked downtown and I'd be like, oh, did I pass here or pass there? Or you have the same routine constantly. And so you're going somewhere different. And I've done this. I always turn right. And the odd time I'm going somewhere else and I actually turn the wrong way out of my driveway and then I just go around the block because I'm just so used to going the same way all the time. It's because your brain has subconscious decisions built into it. Think of grocery shopping. 90% of us, do you guys all grocery shop the same way in the store? Or do you shake it up? Most people, we just don't have time. And so you go, I do fruits and vegetables first. And I was shopping with someone one time and they said, fruits and vegetables you should do last because they won't get squished. I'm like, well, no, because frozen's on the other end and you want frozen last, right? Like, everyone has their reasons and you go through the store without thinking. You have a route that you go and it's your subconscious thought. And it's because your brain has figured out a system that has made it easy for you so that you don't have to put energy into it. Okay. Because your brain doesn't like to put a ton of new energy into stuff. So if you don't have things rooted deep at a subconscious level, your brain will work to not let those things happen. Okay. So having the vision roots stuff from your forefront to your subconscious. So if you think, yeah, I'm going to start getting healthy and that's it, nothing's going to happen. Right. And then if you think, well, I'm going to drink water and I'm going to exercise 25 minutes a day and it might get a bit better. And then you have a challenge and that motivates a lot of us. A lot of us love ticking off boxes and getting prizes. That motivates it even more. Beyond the challenge, what does it do? It's when you take the time to vision the result you want, to have a clear, concrete vision who you're going to be, how are you going to feel walking down the street? How are you going to feel looking into the mirror? What is this person thinking, feeling, smelling? What does she do? Like having that deep, deep rooted vision. Um, if it's business, like not just like my very first vision in business was like, I want to make $1,000. And there was 4 friends signed up with me and I want them to get their products paid for. Once the first part of the vision happened, I started kind of self-sabotaging and spinning my wheels and didn't really realize it because I hadn't made it bigger. I hadn't allowed myself to go farther. And some of the people hadn't reached their goals that I wanted them to reach their goals. So then I was stuck waiting because that's where my vision stopped. It didn't occur to me there could be a new vision, right? And so I spent time actually being crystal clear. And when you're like clear in your vision, I actually wrote a little mini novel. It's like what the first chapter. And I wrote a novel of like, this is the day of Shelley and just what I'm thinking. Like I wrote it in first person. Like I woke up this morning so excited to get out of bed. I used to hate getting out of bed, but now I love getting out of bed because I cannot wait to see who I'm going to help today. And I actually wrote through some of the thoughts I have now versus some of the thoughts future Shelley would have. I just said in there, like at one time I would have been afraid to talk to someone, but now I'm excited because I know that people need help. I know they need money and I so badly want to help them. So the first part of it is making your vision so real. And by thinking about it, by writing it on paper, by sharing it with someone and physically telling someone, by writing it in story fashion, by looking at it, by reading it every day, what happens is it moves from your forefront brain into your subconscious brain. So your brain will now subconsciously start doing things to help you reach your goals, right? You will subconsciously drink the water. If you've created this story around what is your ideal health and what does that look like, and you believe this and you say it and you read it and you tell people, instead of struggling through and going, oh man, it's 4 o'clock and I've only had 3 ounces of water, you're going to start realizing, oh, I've downed so much water because it's just you've put it into your brain. You're going to not suddenly want the treats and you're going to start suddenly randomly meal planning and the meal plans will be healthier and it will be different. You will work things into your day naturally because your subconscious, your brain wants to help your subconscious because that's where it operates out of. When something is in your subconscious, your brain finds it easier to operate to make those things become a success. And literally, how you move it from the forefront into that subconscious part is by thinking about it, talking about it, breathing about it, acting about it, like all of those things, right? So the first time I heard this, I'll admit I thought it was a dumb activity. Like this was years ago, 4 years ago. And then I did it and I realized there is definitely a lot of truth to it, right? But now it's that point of like, how do you make it bigger? Because I think I kept my vision reasonable and small. And this is one of the things that I thought that I didn't realize was hanging me up. Because people are always talking about when you make 7 figures. I'm like, well, like my life's not going to change. Like I'm not gonna get my nails painted every day, and I'm not gonna like get my eyebrows plucked. Like that's not who I am. Nothing will change. But that's totally not true. Of course it's going to change. Like if you're kind of living the paycheck to paycheck, and now you have 7 figures and you don't change how you spend, it will change how you feel, right? It will change what you do. It will change how you give. Instead of going, oh, I kind of want to help that person. How much money do I have? You go like, yeah, I can do that. Walk down the street and see a school in an inner city. And there's some schools as we were I mean, Roxy, we're driving through the ghetto last night and just like there was some schools in that area that I worked in. I had such fond memories of kids, but moms who are truly struggling. And I know the one school that's tucked away on, back in 97, just a really hard knock area, right? I would love to go in there and be like, I'm going to pay the lunch fees for 10 of your families. Like, just how much do you need? Like, without thinking about it, without budgeting and pre-planning and squirreling away money every month. So we have this idea, well, I'm happy where I am. Nothing's going to change. I'm not going to let money change me. We're putting it into our subconscious that we don't want to have more. And why don't you want money to change you? Because here's the thing, and Eva says this all of the time, greedy people become more greedy with money. Generous people become more generous. It doesn't change who you are at the core, but it changes how you can give and how you can show up. And so by me judging people that make money deep down, well, I'll admit, and I don't know if it's being a believer or I don't know what it is, or just money drama as a kid, but like being like, no, no one needs to have that much money. It helps your brain sabotage so you physically can't go ahead. It's the same thing with health. By judging people, oh, I'm never going to be that person who like blah blah blah. Like she, look at her, little Miss Fun Pants thinks she can eat nothing but this or do that. Like I'm never going to do that. I don't want to be that. So then your brain's going to be like, okay, this is what we're never going to do. This is what we're never going to do. And you're never going to get there. If you want to reach this level, you have to aim for that level, right? If you want to make 2 million, you got to aim, or if you want to make 1 million, you got to aim for two. If you want to lose 10 pounds, you got to aim for 15. Your brain has to stretch, and it's in the stretch going above it that you're going to reach your goal. So, um, we need to train our brains to focus on where we want to go. And that takes time and that takes energy because when we have our vision, then we can tap into the reasons and we can tap into what are the reasons we need to do it. But the first thing is really getting a vision. And it sounds really silly, but I spent like 2 hours at the library Sunday and I first in point form wrote out some of the things I wanted. And then I wrote a little narrative of like, and it was detailed and it was specific in a lot of my things. And I started with like the Martin Luther, I had a dream speech. Like I have a dream of fill it in, handing out Christmas hampers at Christmas time, taking my kids to this location every day, being able to, or every day, every year, or once, being able to help this person with this, being able to care for my family. For me, I would love to be able to afford a housekeeper for my mom, right? She's just at that age where I'm like, she shouldn't have to do that anymore. And if I live next door, I do it, but I don't. It's a bit of a drive, right? So, like, it can be anything and it can be selfish things. Like for you, that's not selfish. Things for your children, things for your family, things for your friends, things for how you want to give, how you want to feel, like what are the dreams that you have? And especially for those of you on here that are like, I kind of want to make some money and maybe get my products paid for. That's a great first step. That was my first step. All I wanted was to get my products paid for. And then when that happened fairly easy, I'm like, I think I want to make $1,000. Like that would be nice. I'll get my products paid for and I'll have a little bit of fun money. And then it turns into this obsession because of the fact that I started looking at what I needed and looked outwards of this is changing people's lives and people need this. And so I'm like, how can I help people? And the more I wanted to help people, that easier it became. But I still kept myself with this little lid. I need to teach myself to vision. I need to say, I need to give myself permission to have the giant vision and to dream the giant dream and to be specific. So the week one of it is tapping into that vision, right? If we remember our chart, it'd be really good for you to think about where do you mostly operate, right? Crisis survival and maybe like pop into success, or you only crisis and survival. Have you seen success? What do you define as success, right? Like what would that look like? And how would you get from here to there, right? So the vision is the really big part one of it. Next week, we're going to tap into how to create those external reasons so that you can tap into that, root into that, and kind of feel that in a bit of a deeper way. And I went way off my notes. And so I didn't say half the things, but I think that was mostly his point. So I might have to have like a wrap up thing at some point, but I'm going to end it there. I'm going to stop the recording. I do want to share that I wrote down, like he had a ton of things on how to create your vision, things that I didn't even think. And I'm probably just going to type it out and I can send it to you because he had like, when I was thinking of pieces of my vision, I was like thinking vision for me, for my family, And he took that way bigger. He's like, what is your vision for your team? What is your vision for for the company? Like, what is the vision? Like, what is your vision for your travel? What is your vision for your leisure time? Do you have a vision for, your farm or your garden or your hobbies? Like, he was like really specific on all of the pieces of your life, how it all fits together, and how do you create a vision for every single piece. So maybe I'll type some of those out because I've lost the page and there was a ton of really good things to think about. I'm going to stop the recording.